Greetings, beautiful people. My name is Simon Javan Okelo, and I'm excited to be here with you for another episode of the African Father in America podcast. And today we are going to have a conversation about space. Recently, there has been an increase in the establishment of space agencies across Africa, and also the Africa Space Agency. So today our conversation is going to center around what a united Africa for space looks like. I'm going to be talking to Ruvimbo Samanga, who is a space law and policy analyst specializing in the African traditional law and outreach industry, working with national, regional, and global organizations. Ruvimbo builds space law and outreach capacity. She is a social entrepreneur and space educator and deeply passionate about creating opportunities for the youth. She is the program's team lead for the 4th annual African Space Generation Workshop to be held in February of this year in Accra, Ghana. So today we will cover the story of Ruvimbo Samanga, why she's passionate about space, and what a united Africa for space looks like, as well as what Ruvimbo's thoughts are about fatherhood, especially Black and African fathers. And then finally, you, our viewers and the listeners of the African Father in America podcast, will be able to learn how you can stay connected to Ruvimbo Samanga. So right now, I'm going to ask my sister Ruvimbo to share with us, a story about herself when she was between the age of 8 to 12. A story that just paints a picture of you, my sister Ruvimbo, that kind of gave you this vision and idea that one day I will be in the space conversations, and I'll be a space law and policy analyst that is impacting the world, and currently having a conversation with another African brother in Seattle, Washington.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Simon, for having me and for speaking about such a pertinent topic, one which will undoubtedly change our lives and impact our lives, especially in the next 5 to 10 years. Growing up when I was a young girl in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, I could have never imagined I would be holding some of the offices that I do today and engaging, let alone in such a theme. Being an African and growing up in the sheltered society we often do, some of these dreams can often be described as far-fetched. And I can assure you that never in my wildest dream did I think I'd be working in the space industry. But I think as Africans in general, we're very curious. We love to learn, even if it won't directly impact our lives. And I think even when I was between those ages of 8 to 12, I was so fascinated by outer space, the grandiosity of it, how marvelous it was, all of the potential that seemed to lay hidden there. And for me, it was a source of great inspiration. I remember when I used to make my goals, even as young as the age of 10, I always wanted to do something that magnificent. I always wanted to have a career that impactful, that large. And of course, now in my later years, that same spirit of adventure, that same spirit of thinking outside of the box followed me, even up to my tertiary years, where finally I was opened up to a world that was much bigger than myself. And I think having had that intrepid nature instilled within me allowed me to finally manifest myself in all of the spaces that I had been dreaming and imagining even at that young age. And it's funny actually how this career of mine came about, because I am a big soul searcher at heart. Just as humanity loves to search the universe to find signs of life and anything that might be of interest to us, I pretty much have the same life philosophy. And I was at a point in my life where I was considering earnestly what the next 10 years, 10 to 15 years would look like for me. And along came this opportunity, which, as I'm frequently wont to do, I took it up. It was a space law moot court competition, which is a mock trial for law students. And never having had any experience and never having had any motivation other than it was a subject field that I simply loved, I took part in the competition the first year. We advanced to the world finals, and unfortunately, we didn't do so well. I was, however, a speaker in that competition, and I managed to be the best African speaker overall. But I still had a burning desire to discover some more. So I took it upon myself to coach the next year's team, and we made it to the world finals again. And this time, with much grit and determination, we became the first African team in the entirety of the competition in its 26-year history to win. And it was such a momentous feat because it really reignited a hope that I had since lost and had gone dormant in my childhood years, that indeed I was more than capable to fulfill whatever it is I set my mind to. And you can imagine, for a continent that has only just begun to engage in the space industry, this was a historic moment, to say the least.
It's true.
It showed us as Africans that we are able, more than able and capable, to advance ourselves to the level of other community of nations.
It's true. When was this competition, and which country did it take place in? Could you just share with us that part?
Indeed. So the competition was held in 2018 at the International Astronautical Congress. It's the largest gathering for space industry stakeholders in the world, and it happens every year in a different location. In 2018, it happened to be in Bremen, Germany.
Are you there, Ruvimbo? I think we might have lost my sister Ruvimbo there, but if you're joining us, my name is Simon Javan Okelo. We are having a conversation today about what a united Africa for space looks like. I'm talking to my sister Ruvimbo Samanga, who is a space and law and policy analyst specializing in the African traditional and new space in the industry. Currently, we were just talking about her story. What are some of the things she has accomplished in the space industry, and where did this passion for exploring space law and building outreach and capacity and encouraging youth to be involved came from. And currently I was asking Ruvimbo to share with us where the competition she was describing took place, which country, but also I want to ask you another follow-up question. So please go ahead and respond to this part.
Yes, so the competition took part in 2018, and it was held at the International Astronautical Congress, which is the largest stakeholder gathering for individuals and companies, organizations, and states in the space industry. It takes place in a different country every year, and in 2018, it happened to be in one of my favorite countries, Germany, in Bremen.
It's okay, we will be patient. You're calling from Zimbabwe. So Ruvimbo is joining me all the way from Zimbabwe. I believe she's in Harare, Zimbabwe. And so the internet connection there is a little, up and down as we speak. But I think she's back. Ruvimbo, please go ahead. Are you there, my sister? Okay, so just to describe a little bit about how Ruvimbo and myself, how we connected, I'm very active on most social media platforms, and through LinkedIn, I connected with a lady called Yara. And so Yara was interested in the work I was doing with One Vibe, with my African Father in America podcast. And she told me about this group. I think we lost Ruvimbo, so I will come back in a moment once she once she returns, I will be able to bring her back into the conversation. So currently, you just have me, and I will come back to our conversation about what a united Africa for space looks like. But for now, I'm just going to share with you how I connected with Ruvimbo Samanga. She's calling right back, so just bear with me. Internet connection is like that. Just bear with me. We are going to be back with you in a moment. We are going to be back with you in a moment. I'm trying to bring back Ruvimbo Samanga, who is my guest today, joining me from Zimbabwe, and the internet connection there is not steady at the moment. So I'm going to give her a few minutes. If you're joining me, I'm also curious. I'm not sure how many people are currently watching, but if there are any people watching this show live, what are your thoughts about the Uganda elections that were just announced? What are your thoughts about the Uganda election? Just drop your comments there. What do you think about a united Africa for space? What does a united Africa for space look like? Is this something important that you think we should even be spending our time discussing? So think about that, and as soon as I'm able to bring my guest back, we will be able to continue the conversation. Ruvimbo, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you yet.
Okay, I will...
as soon as I can see... Yeah, no problem. Take your time. We are not in a hurry. I just asked the people who are viewing this conversation live on YouTube what their thoughts are about a united Africa for space. Is it an important topic for us to be discussing now? And also I asked what their thoughts are in regards to the Uganda elections, whose results were just announced. So Ruvimbo, you also think about that while you get ready to join me. Are you trying to connect through your laptop this time, or do you want to use your you're going to use your phone again?
I am going to try a different device this time. I'll try my iPad and see if that works a bit better.
No problem. Take your time. Yeah, so I'll just keep talking to the viewers and the listeners of the African Father in America podcast. This week has been a good week for me personally. And I'm a father of 3 girls, and I spend a lot of time with my girls. So a lot of the time, what I know most is the time I spend with them. Then I have the time that I spend researching online and doing my work as a social media manager for Antioch University. Then I have the time that I research guests for the African Father in America podcast. I produce it. I learn how to do a show like this live on YouTube to a level where it's high quality. So I'm just a student all the time. Recently, I've been learning about this new app called Clubhouse, where I've actually connected with a lot of people through, and I'll also be sharing a follow-up podcast about space, where we were discussing a survey that I recently participated in that is something that we are going to discuss briefly with Ruvimbo as well. But there's so much going on, and I just love paying attention to new things that are happening. For example, the space conversation in in the world is going on, where we see let me just bring in Ruvimbo. I'm bringing in Ruvimbo here, so bear with me. We are having internet challenges. Hello, Ruvimbo, I can't see you yet. I can't see you yet. Take your time, though. Take your time. Yeah, so there are things that you can't have total control over. Things like the internet, especially when you are in a country like Zimbabwe, you don't have total control over it. The government does. So the quality that you have is what the government decides. In the US, I think you get the quality that you can purchase. So that's the difference between being in the US and Zimbabwe in regards to access to the internet. Similar to Kenya, it's halfway. It's what the government allows you to have and also what you can afford. It's in between Zimbabwe and the US. Anyhow, I'm just rambling a little and thinking of what I wanted to say earlier, which is the survey. Make sure you are able to check out this survey that I did. In fact, the purpose of the survey was called Survey for Africa Satellite Development Model, and this is part of how I connected with Ruvimbo, who she and I were talking earlier, but she's in Zimbabwe and her connection is not very good, so she's currently trying to connect back with me. So in the meantime, I just wanted to share a little background of how I connected with her. How did Simon Okelo in Seattle connect with Ruvimbo, who is in Zimbabwe as we speak, and is a space law and policy analyst. So I was saying earlier, Yara introduced me to a group on WhatsApp that consists of students and intellectuals and various types of people who are in the space industry in Africa. And so when I was introduced to this community, I saw a survey posted there, and I responded to it. So I filled the survey, which was covering Africa Satellite Development Model. The purpose was to assess the best model that can help improve satellite development in Africa. Some African countries have registered themselves in space by the development of their satellites. So what I did was to share this survey in Clubhouse and have a Clubhouse room where we talked about space. I learned that there are also communities within Clubhouse, and Clubhouse is a new app. It's like Facebook but just audio. You just have a conversation with people, and you can't see them, you can't text them, you can only my guest is back. Ruvimbo is back, and I just want to let her in, so bear with me while I do that. I know that we are live, but we have to also continue with the program and make sure we are able to bring Ruvimbo back in the room. Ruvimbo, can you hear me okay? One moment, I'll be right back.
hear me too.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay. I'm just going to fix something here real quick. Then we can continue with our conversation. So are you at a better place, or do you just have better connection now? Just want to check in on that. Do you feel good about how everything looks now?
Yeah, I think everything looks all right. I'm not in a different place. I'm just hoping that a quick reboot will do the internet some good.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Okay, well, we can continue the conversation. I was asking you earlier to share with us, just your, where, number one, maybe you should just talk to us about how we connected, the Africa group on WhatsApp, and your connection with Yara, and just describe to our viewers, how how the current state of the space industry is according to the network that you have.
Indeed. So we do have a group chat of space enthusiastic individuals, one of whom is a mutual connection between yourself and myself, that's Yara. And she's also quite passionate about development in Africa in the space industry, particularly through education, which is one of my core interests as well. But within that African space group, you will not only find space educators, you'll find space engineers, space lawyers, space scientists, really the full spectrum of individuals in a normal industry ecosystem, but translated to this technical field of space. And as it currently stands in Africa, you'll be surprised to know that even though it's a developing and emerging industry, it's growing at such astronomical rates. As it stands, the space industry in Africa is currently worth at least 10 billion US dollars.
Wow.
And that's only expected to increase at a rate of 40% each year moving forward.
Wow.
And if you also consider that there are at least 19 spacefaring countries in Africa, these are countries that have an active space program or have made attempts to launch or will launch a satellite in the near future.
Can you tell me some of these countries, please?
Indeed, we have countries such as South Africa, Angola, Morocco, Egypt, and most recently, Rwanda and Ethiopia. Ethiopia actually launched its second satellite in the last few weeks. So there are a number of countries that are seeing the viability of satellite for sustainable development and are even going past that to even consider, for example, deep space exploration, which is where we begin to consider human space flight, going to the moon, perhaps even going to Mars. So as this industry grows from a government level, we also have individuals who are beginning to participate from a private level as well. And to this, you can add the nearly 80 plus startups, both in upstream and downstream, that are currently operating on the continent. And the majority of them are youth owned. So these are all individuals who are 35 years and below, using space data to transform lives, whether it's through agriculture and precision farming, like Humbi Tech and my own startup, which does the same, AgriSpace, or whether it's water management, or it could even just be providing high-speed internet broadband, which unfortunately has yet to come to my country, obviously, but would be very useful. These are all different ways in which individuals are using space and satellites to transform lives, and I can confidently say there's a healthy and growing number of individuals contributing to this industry from all sectors.
Thank you so much. Let's talk about what a united Africa for space looks like. From your perspective, when you hear this statement, what comes to your mind? And just paint a picture for someone who does not even think about space when they think of Africa, and paint for us what this statement, what United Africa for Space looks like, means to you?
I will prelude my answer with a little development in the space industry, which, as you might have already heard, that by the year 2022, the African Space Agency will be established. This space agency will be hosted in Cairo, Egypt, and it's intended to conglomerate the full efforts of every single African country in the space industry. It is following from the European Space Agency model, which has witnessed great success, to the extent that they have a burgeoning industry and that all the needs and interests of the countries within that region are catered for. I believe a united Africa for innovation looks exactly just as this space agency is trying to envision, recognizing that you'll have some countries that have greater technical capacity than others, and some countries which will have greater need than others. And these two variables will not always correlate. So there's a need to fill the gap. There's a need to share costs and risks, and there's a need to share information and knowledge that can transform the full and broad spectrum of African lives. A United Africa for Space Innovation is one that will collaborate and cooperate as opposed to competing, which is what you might say characterizes the current state of affairs. A United Africa for Space Innovation, I believe, is one that will also share goods, it will share products, it will share services, and it will share human resources in the betterment of all African lives. And in the context of satellite infrastructure, it looks to me as though we need one Pan-African satellite that will cater for the whole entire country, continent's needs in a way that is fully democratized. So even if a country doesn't have the necessary technical capacity, they are supported either way.
That's what that's what my response was in the survey, for Africa Satellite Development Model. There were people that were advocating for Africa's satellite station to be based in the 4 regions of Africa, but I feel that Africa already has so many challenges that we are facing because of the division that exists amongst African countries that were caused by the colonizers. And I feel that one space station would support the entire continent very effectively, similar to how there's this hydroelectric project in the Congo that is being developed that is being said to have the capacity to serve the entire continent, So I'm imagining that if we were to have one space station that countries are committed to providing resources to sustain, that would be something really amazing. And I also think if all the 55 countries in Africa were to unite to create something like that, it would enable the continent to come together and keep out the European and the American or the Chinese influence or control of such an important initiative. Because if we are disorganized, then somebody else will come and organize us. And that's not good.
That's very true.
Yeah.
At the core of any development of a space agency, the idea is to have space autonomy. I think it's to take over the control of processes. And I mean, when you're also dealing with something as sensitive as data, and especially data over such a large sovereign territory, there's national security interests that necessitate us having this control. And that doesn't mean completely pushing out foreign partnerships, but I think it means operating from a more equal playing field that allows us to engage productively and in a safe, secure, and sustainable way.
Right, right, right. That's true. That's true. It has to. Africa has to have control over such things, and um, when we think about something like space, I also think that African youth need to spend a lot of time investing and learning, and that's part of why I'm really impressed by you, because even though you've done so much, you've accomplished so much, I'm just curious to learn how old you are, but also um, I want to learn a little more about if you are looking at a girl that is 8 years old right now in what's the biggest slum in Harare, Zimbabwe? You live in Harare, right?
I live in Bulawayo, that's the second largest city.
Okay, so Bulawayo, I'm sure, has a slum. Let's say you are in Bulawayo, you've met a girl. Just take your mind to Bulawayo for a moment. You're there physically, I know, but walk in one of the areas that your brothers and family tell you can't go there by yourself. You have to go there with somebody, because just to be a woman in Africa is a full-time job, to fight and be able to accomplish some of the things you've accomplished at your age, which I really want to know, is no joke. So you've met me, I'm this little girl in, you're going to tell me the name of this slum in Bulawayo. Tell me something. Tell me what you could tell yourself if you're that little girl living in that place right now. And then I want you to also think about, what a father figure means to you. Like, if you look at the world, most people always say black fathers, African fathers are absent. They're not the greatest dads. I want to learn from you. What do you think about that? Thank you.
Indeed, as you said, in most societies, being a woman is a full-time job. Your security is always at the top of your mind. And even when it comes to opportunities, not only is it frequently questioned when you receive certain opportunities, but sometimes those opportunities don't come as cleanly as you would expect them to. There's always an expectation, whether it's in return for the opportunity or an expectation for you to be more than you really are in order to almost deserve that opportunity. And I think it's so ingrained in our society that even as a young girl in, for instance, a suburb like Mpopoma, high density suburb here in Bulawayo, you grow up accepting that as a woman, often your only contribution is to serve and not to receive. And as a young girl, I'm growing up in this almost a shanty town, which was once an illustrious neighborhood but has turned into a homeland for African individuals, far removed from city benefits, far removed from the lifestyle you'll see maybe in TV and in newspapers. And I'm in a bubble. I am earnestly considering if there is a world outside of myself. And I'm earnestly looking to society to bring this world to my doorstep, as entitled as that may sound. There's a deep yearning for inclusivity. And as one small young girl from this shanty town, how do you determine how inclusivity goes from the government? You cannot. But you trust your good graces that the government will acknowledge and see even your to society while in investing. And that expectation is not only a governmental one. You have those expectations of your parents. You have the expectation that you will have a mother and a father who have your best interests at heart. They always say that there are only two people who will truly want to see the best for you, and those are your parents. But what happens when one of your parents doesn't meet up to this mold? And for young girls, it's incredibly impactful when you have an absent father. Your relationship with your father determines not only how you relate to the rest of the world, it also determines how you relate to men. And now consider then if you're in a male dominated industry like myself, and your relationship with your father has been marred by absenteeism, by cold relations, by emotional trauma, you carry that with you even into the workplace. You hold that trauma even in the way you speak, the way you act, the way you engage with others. And it has run on effects. It's a continuous cycle where you will continue to be victimized and to feel victimized. And I suppose then that there's a great unction for fathers, especially in the African community, to recognize their role and impact in society as pillars, as supporters, as providers as well. And to understand young girls and young boys require the affection, the love, and the attention from their parents. For mothers, we can say it's a lot easier. It's inbuilt in women to be affectionate and caring. For fathers, so much. So there's a greater need for men to really recognize that emotional sensitivity, especially when it comes to fostering or nurturing another individual in this world. I think in general, the world can do a lot better with a lot more sensitivity out there.
Yeah.
But in the African community, where you do see this high rate of father absenteeism in families, it would do so well to have this small little young girl from, Mpopoma in Bulawayo to feel sheltered not only in her nuclear family, but in her societal family as well.
Wow. Thank you. I was right there with you at Mpopoma in Bulawayo. Yeah, you're very well spoken. Where did you learn how to be so poised and so strong? Tell me about this superpower that you have. If you're joining us, this is the African Father in America podcast, and my name is Simon Javan Okelo. I am having a conversation with Ruvimbo Samanga. We are coming towards the end of our conversation today, and I just want to let Ruvimbo share with us where she gets this superpower from. She's so eloquent, so brave, and she's doing amazing work as a space law and policy analyst, specializing in the African traditional and NewSpace industry. Today we talked about her story, we talked about why she's passionate about space, we talked about what a united Africa for space looks like, and we covered a little bit about what fatherhood means for Ruvimbo. And now she's going to share with us where she gets her superpower, as well as how you, the viewers of the African Father in America podcast, can stay connected with her. Thank you, Ruvimbo.
Indeed. So I am fully available on my social media. I'm always willing to connect, especially on any partnerships or any knowledge sharing platforms that we can engage on. You're more than welcome to contact me on my LinkedIn on a professional basis, especially with regards to any potential collaboration and project. You're also welcome to follow me on Instagram and Facebook, where I share nearly daily updates on the number of projects that I'm working on.
Hey, Ruvimbo, can you please...
My name there is Ruvimbo Samanga, as you see on the screen. Likewise for LinkedIn. If you're more impersonal and rather than then you can also follow me on Twitter. My is at Rui Astra. That's RUEY ASTRA. That just means Rui. I believe there's a star girl in every single woman and girl child, especially one who sees a bigger dream for themselves. So you're hiring content on my Twitter handle if that's what you're interested in. But you can send me an email at Ruvimbo Samanga, and I would be more than happy to collaborate and answer any more burning questions that you might have about the space industry, and also how you, as a young person, especially a young girl child, can get involved.
Thank you so much, Ruvimbo. I'm hoping that I can have you back on and we can do this with much more steady internet. So think about it, and in the next few weeks, I would really love to have you back so that we can deepen this conversation. And I just want you to know that I appreciate you waking up so early on a Sunday morning in Zimbabwe to have a conversation with me. I'm really passionate about not just sharing my own story through this podcast, but also sharing stories of wonderful people like you who are doing wonderful work and inspiring a lot of young people. So if you are joining the African Father in America here on YouTube for the first time, thank you so much. Please remember to subscribe and leave your comment down below, and also share this video. If you're joining us on other podcasting platforms, whether it's Apple Podcasts, whether it's on Spotify, just know that we are grateful, and rate the African Father in America podcast in those other platforms. And see you next Saturday at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I will be having another conversation with a different guest here. And Ruvimbo, thank you so much for your time. I'll call you later on through WhatsApp. We can build from there. One more time for everybody who joined us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Ruvimbo. I appreciate you. So for everybody who joined us on YouTube and all the live platforms, thank you again. I appreciate you so much. Have a beautiful evening. Thank you. Father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.